Hello, and welcome to our talkie episode for the Silent Hill that we've just played. This is Michaela, Studious Octopus.
I'm Peter.
And I'm Scott.
So, we've just finished up, I suppose, the whole of Brookhaven Hospital in Silent Hill 3. How was that?
Unnerving, to say the least. The Otherworld Hospital was rather intense at times.
Fleshy.
Very fleshy, and it didn't let up in the slightest.
Bit noisy.
Yeah, that's what gets me the most in the Silent Hill games, the music. Especially the oppressive stuff.
And the ambience, the breathing of the nurses, I thought that was good as well.
How great for the atmosphere.
So sticking to the topic of the hospital and the sort of the ambience and things like that, what did you think of the transition and the transition area and the whole end of the hallway that you've already explored business?
To be honest, I thought it was a little trite. The whole room that wasn't there is now there thing. Feels like it's been done to death already. The transition itself through the weird little hallway with the cage doors, it was alright, I suppose. There's nothing remarkable about it.
That's interesting, because when you were playing it, we were talking about how Silent Hill 1 does the same thing. I don't know if you remember. When you're in the school, you go down the little clock and come back up, and it's a different school. So it's the same thing.
It did take me a few seconds to realise I was back in the hospital.
It does, yeah.
Because it looks so different.
She uses the map, but yeah.
I'm just happy we got to see the day room. It kept us out of it for so long.
Sorry, the day room?
The day room.
The day room! I thought you were saying deer room.
Yeah, it's the room with the deer.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't surprise me if there was one. But yes, go on, the day room. Was that the one that had the big sort of
open pit area
with the curtains and the sort of looked like that sort of haze you get off the heat?
It was the one with the big open pit in the floor that I almost fell into.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
One of the ones you almost fell into.
That did fall into other ones.
Yeah, there was the one that you did fall into. We died there, and then we sort of got back to where we were and continued. And on the way there, we entered the room with the mirror. Yeah,
that was rather well done. That unnerved the hell out of me. Just the crawling lines of blood, I guess, going across the wall.
Yeah, I think that was sort of new to Silent Hill 3. I think they had sort of an extra tool in their arsenal of things that they could throw at the player to make them feel unnerved.
I did notice it looked a bit dated. The lines were a bit blocky.
There was a little bit of pixelation, yes. I mean, this is a fairly old game at this point. It's not ancient or anything, but it's, last decade. So going back to the hospital in general, though, and back to the normal sort of world version of it, there's all the diaries by Stanley Coleman. Do you like the progression?
I did. I told you a little story of something else that was going on in the hospital rather than just you're in a hospital searching around.
And it's not all about you, which I think can be good sometimes in a small measure. I mean, obviously you don't want everything disconnected. That was one of the problems with Downpour. Is that in Downpour, there's all of these side quests and sub-stories, but none of them are even anything to do with you, so you don't really care about them. So did you like the way it kept on sort of implying at other things that were happening in the hospital?
With all the doctors. Speaking of that, the rooms where they were locking the staff members up in. Brutalising patients.
I thought that was interesting, because it's... what you normally see is you normally see them sort of abusing the patients, and then they're just abusing the patients. But in this one it's strange, because it's got that turnabout where they put the staff in the isolation rooms.
For abusing the patients.
Yeah. What did you think about the phone conversation?
Which one?
The Leonard Wolf conversation. Before we got to see what he looked like.
I thought it was interesting. Where did he keep his phone? I knew he was a bit fishy, because, he's related to Claudia. Anyone related to Claudia has to be a bit fishy. And then we got to him, and he was fishy.
Quite literally. Actually, he did seem to have flippers for hands. It was quite strange.
Yeah, they reminded me of Squidward's hand in that way, that they're sort of tentacle hands.
Not very threatening, boss.
And not very reminiscent of Squidward in any other respect.
Well, no, not really, but his hands reminded me of
other than being in water, I think.
But yeah, he was very strange and faceless. And I also thought it was a bit strange because you haven't seen the Silent Hill Full number 2 Revelations.
No, I've never read
But they
it.
sort of have a Leonard in the film. It's like, it doesn't really have anything to do with the one in the game. So it's weird sort of things they translate and things they don't.
Didn't he sound like the Emperor from Star Wars?
He did get a bit that way.
I can feel the hatred. Yeah, sorry, that's not an impersonation, just in case you
Same
were
as that she killed my father, and then he could go, I am your father, or something like that. Yeah. Anyway.
And then he's like, actually, I'm Claudius. Sorry about that. But, if you think about... Anyway, moving swiftly onwards. Yes, there was a rather amusing moment when he said seal. And, yeah.
I think I stopped at the end of that episode to
Have a
conjure the
giggle.
image of the logic puzzle. That seemed a bit annoying and a bit too much to put in the game, I think.
Yes, here I've got written down puzzled by puzzle, because it did take us a little while to solve that. We did that off camera, because obviously we didn't just want to have us sitting there in front of a bit of text on the screen. So yeah, there was a slight cut there before we figured out the number puzzle. Or was it not the number puzzle you were talking about?
It was the number puzzle I was talking about.
Yeah, there was only really that difficult one, because there was some sort of other smaller ones, like the clock.
Especially when it lies to you. That always throws you off slightly.
I'm not sure if it's lying or, you're interpreting.
Wait, what lied?
Or
The logic puzzle. The last one of the numbers is the final key.
Oh, right. Yes, and you were thinking final key as in final key on the keypad.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what it was getting at with that, actually. It might have been... I don't know. But yes, I was sort of thinking, one of the numbers has to be 9, but of course it isn't 9. The solution doesn't have 9 in it.
Just imagine if you'd played it with hard difficulty puzzles. It would have been even worse.
I don't know. Think about that, to be honest.
I mean, really, it's not that hard. As long as you've read and memorised most of Shakespeare's play, then, it's quite easy at that point, I think. The most difficult puzzle difficulty, rather, it actually does require some knowledge of Shakespeare to solve the first puzzle.
Cool.
With the Shakespeare books at the beginning of the Shakespeare.
Probably not that difficult if you're English. Most of us have studied lots of Shakespeare.
Yes, our educational system has inflicted him upon us. And speaking of telephone conversations, there was the other telephone conversation, the birthday conversation.
Rather nice of him to wish Heather a happy birthday like that.
And I do like the way it keeps on introducing new characters. It sort of makes the world feel a bit more lived in.
Although, I'm kind of worried that these things sort of appear and don't go anywhere.
No, they don't. I think it adds to the mystery, personally, but I can see what you mean, that they don't flesh them out.
I did like the changing ages you give, and that little note you found later on with the 3 numbers adding up. Would that be a lesser
Cheryl.
Cheryl and Heather?
Yeah.
I try not to think about it too much, because you have that sort of scanners effect where your head eventually explodes if you think about it too much. But, yeah.
Because, yes, you've got the original Alessa who was burned, died, but then remade part of herself, the good part, who was Cheryl, who then came back to Silent Hill with Harry when she was 7. But then at the end of the game, unlike in the film, she gets lost as well, and you get a new baby, who's then Heather. So it's all very confused.
So Heather's the reborn... Yeah, it's... yeah. Did you like the blood altar and the very strange transition and the sort of you repeating what the cult did?
I'm just surprised Heather's quite willing to go along with whatever's around, to be honest. She seems very stoic in the face of absolute horribleness.
Well, to be fair, I suppose at this point she's seen her father be horribly murdered and then had to presumably move his body into a bed and cover him up.
I imagine she's a little jaded by now, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So you think there's some desensitization involved?
And she is sassy.
She's a bit sassy. The Leonard Wolf boss battle. What did you think of that?
Nothing a few rounds of a submachine gun didn't solve.
Submachine? Yeah, okay. So he can say it.
Peter kept mispronouncing it submarine, which would have worked because you were in water, but yeah.
I'm gonna cry if I see another hospital, by the way.
There's another one in 4.
Really? God damn it.
Actually, yeah, there is some sort of fatigue to do with locations. You did mention that you were feeling a little bit sick of just being in hospital and the sort of the locations which you're in, because they're overly familiar by this point.
Once you've seen one or two, that's not really much they can do to shock you at that location anymore.
Especially playing these like we are, which is, we played the first one, then played the second one, then played the third one. Whereas, of course, when they came out, there was 2-year gap between every game except 3 and 4, which had a shorter gap.
Oh, I did want to say as well, I like the bit where it was basement number 3, so it's like the building's basement, and then from there you go even further down and down to get to Leonard. It's sort of a bit Silent Hill 2-y.
Yeah, very evocative
sort of layers down and down and down.
Very evocative of the Historical Society.
So you're looking forward to what Silent Hill has to offer once you've left the Hospital of Death and Blood.
As long as it's not another hospital, sure.
It is, it's just wall-to-wall hospitals from this point onwards. It's just then you go to the other world hospital. No, you don't. Actually, I forget what's next. Well, I suppose we'll find out next time. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.